I thought Izzy was going to work you, but damn, did you prove my black ass wrong. Talk me through the whole finish.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said the clumsy man jumps because my teammates, coaches, they go, sometimes they look at me, they go, you look like you're falling over. What's going on? You know, I was so into the sport, I watched fight movies. Never Back Down was a movie that came out when I was 14.
Never Back Down.
That was the movie that motivated me to become a professional MMA fighter. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Beating up his enemy, he's getting the hot girl. This is it. I want to do this.
Sean Strickland has a unique style that he doesn't really do a lot of offense. So how do you expose somebody when they truly prioritize defense over offense?
Constant offense.
What type of meat they got out there in South Africa? Like, are you having lion? Are you having tiger? Do you have a panther? Like, what are you having?
Oh, it's 15-time world champion Demetrious Johnson. You're listening to the MightyCast.
What's going on, guys? This episode of the MightyCast is sponsored by PrizePicks. Now, PrizePicks is a daily fantasy sports game where you can play directly from your phone. It's very simple. Go to your app store, download PrizePicks, and when you do that, use my promo code MightyCast. They have a cool promotion going on right now. All you gotta do is play $5, and no matter what happens in your lineup and your picks, you're gonna win $50, ladies and gentlemen. And they also have the Super Bowl. This is the last opportunity we can make picks on NFL. And here's a free chance to get a free square, half a yard, and you're gonna get that free pick. So make sure you guys lock in your picks at the right place, which is PrizePicks. Shout out to PrizePicks for our sponsored episode of the MightyCast. Now let us get back to our guest, Dricus Du Plessis. Wow, hello.
Yep, we're
Ready to go?
Yep, recording.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Let's see how this goes. All right, in 3, 2, 1, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the MightyCast. And I have a special guest here. He goes by the name Dricus Du Plessis. Not gonna lie to you, he sounds like a fucking vampire in America. That name, I was like, man, that man sounds like a vampire. But at first, I thought his name was DDP. Well, that's how everybody called him, DDP. I thought Diamond Dallas Page was Fight Again. Welcome, Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus, how you doing, brother?
Champ, great, amazing to be on. It's a massive honor for me.
No, thank you for coming on, man. I'm gonna start off first. When you were gonna fight Izzy for the middleweight championship, I thought Izzy was going to work you, but damn, did you prove my black ass wrong? You ended up submitting him. I was actually blown away. I was like, this motherfucker just submitted Izzy Adesanya. Like, talk me through. Like, I feel like you have a unique style where, you know, when they watch you and they're like, okay, he moves a certain way. I hear you hit like a truck, but you have a style where you do not give up. Like, you have an unorthodox style. You have a high shield. You switch from southpaw to orthodox, and then you go forward, and then you got him down, and you were able to submit him. Talk me through that whole buildup of that fight and then the whole finish.
Yeah, I mean, fighting a guy like Izzy, I mean, I think that fight's been building in my head for years. I started fighting professionally at 19. And obviously, when I was around, I would say 23, 24, Israel Adesanya was already UFC champion.
Wow.
So, I mean, for 6 years, the man has been at the top of the pile, and he's been the benchmark of what you need to be able to beat to become the greatest in the world. So, you know, with that building up in my head, watching him, seeing how incredibly good he is, and it also serves as a motivator. And then all of a sudden, you're in the mix. You're the top of the mountain. You're the champion. But yeah, I've said it before. The nerves for that fight was something. I would say the most nervous I've been for a fight. Even more nervous than fighting for the title itself, purely because knowing the pedigree that I'm fighting. You're fighting a guy that can literally, with one mistake, put your lights out. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of guys you fight, you know, they're really good, but, you know, you can get away with certain things because you can take 1 or 2 punches and afford mistakes. With a guy like Izzy, I mean, I got cut up in the first 30 seconds of the fight, you know, eating a knee to the forehead. Mm-hmm. And if you shoot at the wrong time, if your guard is down at the wrong time, and with his accuracy and his striking style, he can put your lights out. I mean, we've seen this so many times with him.
Yep.
So, that was then that night. Yeah, it looks awkward. It looks different. And if you're going to say polished, not as polished as his style and many, many other styles look, but to me, to my physical attributes, my style is one that works.
I love that. And I don't want to say it's not, when you said it's not well polished, I think it's polished because you became a world champion doing it, right? Like it's not your typical rhythm-based fighting style where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. You might be 1, 2, 6, 5, right? It still works, and that's why I think it throws people's cadence off. Like we had a gentleman at a gym, he had like a style like yours where it's like, why am I getting hit? He's able to hit me, and then my coach is like, his style is unorthodox. You're not used to it, so you have to pick up that rhythm. But that's what's made you successful. Even when you fought Robert Whitaker, we've had him on the MightyCast before. He was like, dude, DDP, he moves a certain way, but fuck, man, he hits hard and he never gives up. Now, what do you attest that to? Because I feel like we're going to get to this, but it's like you don't give up when something doesn't go your way. Like you shoot and you'll miss a shot, and then some way you're able to make that shot work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that because obviously I don't plan on missing the first shot. But at the level we're at, I would say that's probably one of the hardest things. You would agree. Obviously, you are tremendous in your career with that. Is just landing a takedown or just setting up a takedown perfectly, because the amount of things that can go wrong in that scenario where you can throw a punch, if you miss, you miss. Sometimes you get counted, but with a takedown, if you miss, you look like an idiot. You spend a lot of energy and your opponent gets the confidence of, I stopped this guy's takedown. You lose your confidence, and then you have the massive, massive risk of getting caught coming in with a knee, uppercut, anything. No, that guy's just throwing a random kick and you're shooting, timing's off. And so when I get in on a takedown, or I get in, let's say the takedown doesn't go my way immediately, I don't get the first shot. I've already used the energy, and I was already able to pass the first hurdle of getting caught coming in. So I always make sure I make that work for me, or at least I try to, the hardest part is done, getting in. And now, sometimes it's a slip, sometimes your opponent blocks it, but when you're in, you have to make it count. Because that's the hardest part in my mind of any takedown is the actual entry. Yep.
We always call it, and in my career, I've always called it the void, because I was always the shorter fighter fighting taller guys, and everybody I trained with was taller than me. So each time I would try to get to them or get to that entry, as you're calling it, I'd always get hit. And I was like, dude, I'm fucking scared to cross. I'm scared. And then my coach was like, why are you scared? And I was like, because there's a fucking void there. I have no idea what's going to happen. You're either going to knee me, punch, uppercut, a kick. I might run into something. And that's why for me, sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to, he was like, dude, just walk in there. Just walk in with your fucking hands. And you kind of do it. Yeah. You kind of walk in with your hands up super high with your high shield. And a lot of people, they don't realize that. I'm like, oh, Dricus, he's using his high shield to get in there to see and get your reads on. And that's
also, to keep that high shield, you get a lot of guys as they shoot in beautiful takedowns. But if something, like you said, that void, if something was to happen, then you get that unlucky KO. You get knocked out, and you might have won the fight, but that's how our sport works. So with that high shield being, like, if something is thrown, you're protected. You're protected, or at least to a certain extent. But yeah, that's a perfect example. And, saying just go for it, because if you half-ass the entry, there's no way, not at this level, that you're getting that takedown.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're trying to be cautious of the entry, and then you can't, it's too slow. Once your opponent sees it, you have to kind of bite down and go for it and try to be as safe as possible doing it.
Yep. No, like I said, that's one of your attributes that you can't teach, is that you never give up on a failed takedown. Like, even all the takedowns you get, like you said, it might be a slip. You are able to make that slip work for you and capitalize on it. Like when you did it against Izzy and Izzy was running away from you, you stayed on him, you hit him, he slipped, you jumped on him, took his back. And I remember watching, I was like, what the fuck just happened? I was like, how the hell did that literally just happen? You got him, you're like, yeah. And I'm like, hey, fuck, oh shit. He got the job done. So I've always wanted to ask you that. I was like, you have this unorthodox cadence style that you go about your fights. And you even recently post on your Instagram saying like, hey, I this man can jump. I'm like, well, of course you jump. But I think you were trying to play homage into your unawkwardness style.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said the clumsy man jumps because
the clumsy man jump. That's what it was.
The clumsy man can jump, and that is it's you know. My teammates, coaches, they go. Sometimes they look at me. They go, "You look like you." Like sometimes we look at you and we think this guy is like a gymnast. Like I can do a standing backflip as a big person. I can jump off stuff, but going forward and punching. Yeah. Sometimes they're like, you look like you're falling over. What's going on? and I laugh so hard when my coach always says it. He says it too. And when Rob Whittaker said it, it was the funniest thing where he said, run at you like you stole something from me. And that is, my coach always tells me, he says, when I go into the octagon, he says, are you angry at the guys you fight? And I say, no, I'm never angry. It's never personal. And he says, well, why do you try to kill them with every single punch you throw? You look like you want to murder them with every punch. I guess, well, that's what that's what I'm there for. You know, I'm not there to conserve energy. And at the end of the day, still getting better. You know, every fight improving. Just in terms of my first couple of fights to now, improving. And in the beginning, when obviously I got a lot of criticism from my style, and I looked into it and I realized, I was like, no, you get a lot of guys that get to a certain level, they change their style. Let's say wrestlers change their style to striking and the other way around. And I was like, this is my style. And it makes it harder to prepare for me because you're not finding training partners. If you find guys with the perfect crisp striking, there's a lot of guys with perfect crisp striking and you can train for that. And I think the style and the way we train, the things that we've always believed works is going to work or change the game. Because isn't that what we're all after, is being a trendsetter, being somebody that makes a breakthrough in the fight game? Because that's how you stay ahead.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I just literally broke down one of your fights, and the way you threw the punch, it wasn't a straight traditional cross, right? You can throw straight traditional crosses, but it was almost like it came down. It was like a heat-seeking missile. It didn't go straight. It was like, and hit the person. Now, when you talked about clumsy, now, what did you do before mixed martial arts? Because you said you started training at 19, correct?
I started fighting professionally at 19. I did judo since I was 5 years old.
Oh,
I started judo, when I was 5. I did that for a couple of years, maybe 6 years. Then I wrestled but I didn't wrestle very long, just primary school, like from the age of 10 to 12, 13. And then at 14, I started with K1 kickboxing.
Oh, shit. So
and
was that in school too, or no? Was that out like, what is because I have family that's in England, and they said like when you're 16 years old, you're pretty much, you're out of high school, and then out of high school, you can go to 2 more years of school. That would be college. And so how is it in South Africa? Like, where you're from, like, are you wrestling till you're 12 and then you're like, hey, you're a grown man, go off and do what you're going to do? Walk me through that process.
No. We don't have any of those things in our school system. We don't have a college wrestling. We don't have that. We have, you have to do this as an extracurricular activity after school. So in school, I played rugby. I wanted to become a professional rugby player. I played rugby up until I was 19. I played rugby my whole life. But, kickboxing, K1 kickboxing, wrestling, judo, all of those were things that you basically did privately after school. Your parents would take you, and I got classes. So we moved. That's why we moved away from where I used to stay, where I had a really good judo coach. And then there was a wrestling club in the new place we stayed. And I went to join the wrestling club. Did it for 2 years, and I wasn't really into it. 2-3 years, I wasn't into it. And then with the kickboxing, I just fell in love with that. I watched Mirko Krokop videos on YouTube, and I thought that's the coolest thing ever. Till this day, he's one of the greatest kickboxing kickbox K1 fighters in the world to me. He's somebody that got me into this. And yeah, I mean, I became national champion 2 years later in kickboxing. And at 18, I became a Waco Junior world champion.
Wow.
K1 world champion, and that I fought in Slovakia. And, obviously I loved fighting and I wanted to make a career out of this. But, kickboxing was, there's no way to earn a living, not from South Africa. And then the local scene was booming in the EFC here in South Africa with MMA. We have a very good EFC Africa now worldwide scene. And yeah, at 19, I started fighting professional MMA, and yeah, that's how it all started.
So guys, this episode of the MightyCast is sponsored by Bowlero. Now, Bowlero is getting in the business of watch parties, and they're starting off the new year 2025 with UFC 312 watch party, DDP taking on Sean Strickland. So check the link in the description below to see if the Bowlero Center is doing this in your hometown. They don't just offer bowling, they're offering the watch party, they're offering designated drinks for catering to the UFC 312, and you can also get your gaming on. So you can do 3 things in one go: watch the fights, get some good food, bowl, and game. So check the link in the description below, bowlero.com/UFC, to get your spot and reserve it before it's all gone, ladies and gentlemen. Why not start the year off with watching some amazing fights at Bowlero Bowling Center for UFC 312, Sean Strickland taking on DDP. Shout out to Bowlero for sponsoring the episode of the MightyCast. Now, let us get back to our guest, the middleweight champion, Dricus Du Plessis. Well, no, you started fighting professionally in MMA, but you're focusing on kickboxing. So when did you first start doing mixed martial arts? Like for me, I did wrestling all the way up till I was 18 years old. And then one day I went to the gym and just started kicking the punching bag. And I saw the Ultimate Fighter and I was like, I think I can do this. And that's when I got introduced into like jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA. For you, you're focused on K1. You've done some judo, but judo doesn't really focus more on the ground. You have the wrestling, so that's just wrestling. But where did you get, okay, Dricus, okay, that high kick you throw? You can throw a high kick, switch this, switch to southpaw, go right hand, double leg takedown, passes guard, and submit him. When did you first get exposed to the complete game of mixed martial arts?
Time, and there was the same coach I have today. The first time I started training there, I was 18 years old.
Okay. Okay.
So, but I have been buying the Fighters Only magazine since I was 13 years old. And in the back, they used to show those techniques in the photos section. So, my brothers both were national judo champions a couple of years running. So in terms of chokes and all of that, YouTube wasn't a big thing then, still for me. I don't really have access to that. But I was so into the sport, I watched fight movies. And I always tried these submissions. Never Back Down was a movie that came out when I was 14.
Never Back Down. Oh,
that was the movie that motivated me to become a professional MMA fighter. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
The guy is beating up his enemy. He's getting the hot girl. This is it. This is what I want to do this. And so, as that, was sparked, maybe it was a phase, maybe, and, just never went away. I just loved it. And I had to travel to get to CIT with Coach Monet Visser, which is my coach to this day. And that's like you said, the first person to show me, after you do this, this is how you set up a takedown. This is how you do this. Because I could wrestle and I could do judo and I could land takedowns and I could strike. And I knew how to do a choke, but I didn't know how to get out from the bottom, for example. I knew all these things, but I didn't know how to put it together. I actually had an MMA fight at 16 with no experience whatsoever. Funny enough, I was there for a kickboxing tournament, but they had MMA. But the MMA amateur scene was there was no fights available. That's why it was never an option. And they said, there's only an MMA fight in my weight. And I said, cool, I'll do it. I went in, the first thing I did, and I was a K1 as a national champion. First thing I did was hit the guy with a double leg, sat on top of him and started pounding, ground and pound. That's how I won the fight. And so that was, but that was just because of the passion. I always had MMA as the end destination because that to me is the ultimate fight sport.
Wow. That's kind of crazy to hear your story because how old are you now? You gotta be what, 28, 29?
I turned 31 yesterday.
31. Oh, well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you so much.
What'd you do for your birthday?
Got engaged.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
I
So
mean, we had a
birthday.
get together. Yeah, let's just get it all over with in one day.
What the fuck? Why? Let me ask you, is it because you're in training camp that you got it all done in one day? Or were you like, you know, it's my birthday, I'm feeling good about it. There's no way she could say no. So I'm going to go ahead and just roll the dice and see what happens.
It was a calculated decision. This because I've been meaning to ask for a while. And I thought, when would be a good time? And then over the holidays, no, I was training. Her family was gone. My family was gone. And, you know, obviously I wanted everybody to be there. And I thought on my birthday then I thought, okay, I'm going to arrange a whole event where everybody's there that's important to us to do this. And then I thought my birthday, I can get her to arrange this whole event. And I can so I was smart in that. And if she didn't like anything, I could say, but you organized it. So it was a very calculated decision on doing it on my birthday.
I would fucking say, because you were like, everybody's gonna be here, she's gonna do all the work, all I gotta do is make sure I have a good
100%.
ring, get on that knee, and boom, got it done. And if she didn't like it, you planned the party. I like where you're going. You know, you got the clumsy man, but the man has got an IQ of Einstein. I love it. Okay, well, happy belated birthday, congrats on the engagement.
Thank you so much.
It's fascinating because, you know, in today's landscape of mixed martial arts, you see kids starting super early. Like, they don't do one sport, right? They're like, you're going to be MMA champ, you're going to do Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, all that stuff, instead of focusing on, you know, you did judo, you did K1, you did wrestling. And then eventually when you got to 18 years old, that's like, okay, that's the end game of combat sports, which is mixed martial arts. Then you went in that, but you already had a solid background in some very strong disciplines in the judo, the kickboxing, and the wrestling, which I feel wrestling is probably the strongest one when it goes into mixed martial arts. Now, when you finally made that transition into mixed martial arts, what was the hardest thing for you to break? For me, it was turtling. Like wrestling, we always go to we don't want to go to our back. We always want to go to all four, and then I always get choked out. Matt Hume be like, oh, you're turtling, you're going to sleep. Stop turtling. Oh, you're going to sleep. Oh, you went to sleep again. Oh, wait. Hey, welcome back to training. That was the hardest thing for me to break because my background was in wrestling. For you, what was the hardest thing to break since you came from so many different backgrounds?
The hardest thing, because the sport that I took the furthest and that I did the most serious was K1 kickboxing. Mm-hmm. And the striking of K1 kickboxing versus the striking in MMA is so different. Yep. Being upright, throwing your kick this way, throwing a normal low kick, just like, wow. You know, the blading low kicks, throwing that way, the punch hook low, throwing and getting my leg caught. All three of my first pro fights, I got taken down first round because everybody knew I was a striker. Yep. Landing the low kick, grabbed the leg, got taken down because of my upright base. My base was very upright. Yep. Because that's the kickboxing style. And then, of course, throwing those kicks, boom, with the shin, full shin kicks. In MMA, the distance doesn't allow you to throw the kicks like you would in Muay Thai and kickboxing because you are too far apart. And once you are in that range, you're in the range of getting taken down. And if you stay there, you can't stay in that range. So that was the hardest part for me, was this was the base of how I was standing as a kickboxer versus an MMA fighter, because I got taken down all the time. And I think that was my biggest thing that I struggled with in the beginning, was understanding that, striking is striking, but MMA striking and kickboxing striking is not the same thing.
And almost, I feel, so how was your, I don't want to say, how was your style in kickboxing, right? Like when we look at your style in mixed martial arts, the stand-up, I'm going to use your words. I'm not saying you called yourself clumsy. Your coach called you clumsy, right? Now, I'm assuming you still had that same type of style in kickboxing. How did that fare well in kickboxing?
Yeah, actually not very different. The one thing that kickboxing has, firstly, is corners.
Yep.
So exactly, I can rush you, get you in a corner, and then
you can just go off.
Tee off. And kickboxing, I can be going, and the ring is a lot smaller. So there's not that much of space to move him. So kickboxing taught me, that's where I think I got my style. My K1 style is, let's punch each other and see who falls first, because you're standing toe to toe, and that's how K1 works. You're standing in the pocket and you're banging. It's you kick me, I kick you. It's a combo for a combo. And in MMA, that is the one thing that you don't have that. It's movement. It's feeling out, then a combo. And I think that's why my style translated from my K1 days into my MMA of let's fight the whole time.
You know what's interesting? I want to watch, because I grew up watching a lot of K1. Ernesto Hus, Mirko Krokop, Mark Hunt, just amazing. Krokop was probably my favorite because he had that southpaw style that he would do.
Kick of his, wow.
It's beautiful. And he would just go pop, pop, and then uppercut and boom, and then high kick every single time. Yeah. And I'm almost like, when I think about when I watch you fight, you bum rush them to try to get there, but they can just go lateral because there's 8 corners. It's an octagon, so they can just run away. And so for me, I want to try to look up some of your kickboxing fights to see, because I feel if you're able to get your opponent to stay still, I'd be kind of curious to see what your work will look like then, right?
Yeah, because that's the hardest part, because when you're fighting a puncher, you're not standing still in front of him.
No.
And that's the one thing. Once you get in, it's about getting in and staying in. And MMA, I feel, once, like you say, the lateral movement makes it almost like you never get in a position where you're in front of each other. It's always, I'm attacking, you're moving. You're attacking, I'm moving.
Yep.
And so that makes it different. And the distance. If you look at kickboxing, the distance, the gloves are almost constantly touching. They're right there at any given moment, is because you have the bigger gloves too. You can take a punch, give a punch. In MMA, you don't have that luxury, because with the smaller gloves, you can't necessarily defend your whole face and the body with that. And in that range, the entry for a takedown is just there. So there's a massive space between you and your opponent. So to close that gap, I believe, is one of the biggest struggles for MMA fighters, is closing the gap, even when it's for a takedown or for striking, but closing that distance in a safe and effective way is tough.
Yeah. So here's a question. Why don't you think K1 was ever successful? Like, when you look at it, right? Like, every single time I watch a K1 fight, it's always been a banger. Like, it's always the highest. It's 4-punch combination, leg kick, your turn, you return it back and forth. It was massive in Japan. Why do you think it never took off here in the States or even in Africa?
I think, and I'm saying this is pure opinion, that it was too much of a sport and it didn't resonate with our DNA as savages as much as MMA does. If that makes sense. It's there's big gloves, there's a ring, there's which we all have. I think MMA resonates to a place where this is a fight. This is not kickboxing. This is a fight.
Yep.
And for anybody that's ever been, and most people should have been or have been in some sort of physical altercation in their life, goes, well, my fight ended up on the ground. What if you just took him to the ground? And that's a thought that I always had, because it's always entertaining. I go 100% agree with you. Like me watching those mixed fights with the Muay Thai, watching the kickboxing fights, it's incredible. And the level is so high, but why it doesn't get the same react or the same crowd as MMA? Because there's always the question, if this was to death, why don't you just take him down? I mean,
that makes sense.
You fought Rotang, right?
Yeah.
You fought Rotang. That Rotang is the scariest striker in the world, I believe. In terms of, like, if you go on pound for pound, like, he is insane. He can take a punch, he can give a punch. It's ridiculous. What did you do? You took him down, and just as soon as you were allowed to pick him down and choked him out. And if that was for life and death, let's take a ref out of this equation, you would have killed him. If that was just a kickboxing fight, he probably would have done that to you. I'm not saying you would have. I'm just saying it would have served him a lot better. So that's why I think in pure DNA of that we have, as humans had, of always wanting to see people fight and see who's the best. The best fight in the world is the UFC champion of the world.
What's going on, guys? This episode of the MightyCast is sponsored by Hexclad. Now, Hexclad is a top-of-the-line premium luxury pots and pans that me and my wife literally use every single day. I use it when I'm cooking eggs in the morning, so does Tyron. And here is a video right here of my wife cooking some delicious jalapeno corn. We were doing street tacos for family friends, and there she is using it. We're making sure that corn is nice and delicious. And one of the cool things about Hexclad is that it is a non-stick pan, which means it's super easy to clean up, very durable. They last you a lifetime, and it's literally the last pots and pans you'll have to buy. So, ladies and gentlemen, upgrade your cookware. Go to hexclad.com/mighty. That'll help you save 10% on your complete order. Once again, that's hexclad.com/mighty. Save you 10%. Upgrade your cookware, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2025. Stop cooking with them old grimy ass pots and pans you have. Upgrade yourself. You deserve it. If you don't deserve it, treat somebody in your life who you believe deserves it. Once again, shout out to Hexclad for sponsoring episode of MightyCast. Now, let us get back to our guest. Yeah, I never thought about that. You know, mixed martial arts is the pinnacle of combat because you can take something
sports, absolutely.
Of combat sports. Oh, yeah, I would even say, like you said, if you're in a fight in the street, I'm not gonna try to, you know, I might do a little some on the feet, but in all actuality, I want to take you down and choke you out, put you in submission, break your arm,
Easy.
you know, disarm you, and then
100%.
you know, do whatever I want, right? And just walk away or rob you, whatever it may be. So it kind of makes sense. I always thought about like, how come K1 was never stuck around even longer? Because I used to enjoy that, and I never looked at it as it is true sport. And that's why sometimes I get mad, because when I look at the landscape of mixed martial arts, like sometimes it's a sport, but sometimes it's more of entertainment, right? Like when you first burst on the scene, like I didn't know much about you, right? I was, this guy named DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, and then you kept on fighting, you kept on winning. I was like, he has a very interesting style. I was like, okay. Oh, there's some back history between him and Adesanya. You guys go back and forth. You guys don't fight yet, but then you beat Sean Strickland. And then I'm like, okay, he beat Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has this unique style where he has his hands like this, almost kind of unorthodox like yours. Well, yours is more traditional, but his is way more that Philly shell style where he's like this. I'm like, why isn't nobody kicking his fucking arms? But we'll get to him later. But and then you fight Izzy. You guys have this huge build up, and you're like, I don't care about your story. And you know that happens. You beat him. I'm like, okay, I'm on board. He's got a dope ass name, Dricus Du Plessis. Sounds like a vampire. That's why I feel like it's more entertainment, and it gets away from the sport, because when you bring that drama, like I'm attached to your story now. I'm curious to see how far can Dricus Du Plessis, and now that I know that you started with judo, you did this, it's extracurricular activity, so you have to be elected to do it. That's where I feel like maybe in K1 they didn't have that storytelling in it that mixed martial arts does, besides the fact of the sport aspect of it.
Let me tell you. Let me. How we've spoken about this and how it goes, and how I see mixed martial arts or MMA and the UFC and the whole MMA scene as you have WWE, you have professional wrestling. The people are crazy. They're doing like those big people just doing flips off every how high is it? Like 7-foot poles and jumping on each other. Insane athleticism, but it is 100% entertainment. It's predetermined. It's entertainment.
Yep.
Then you have something like, let's take judo, for example, which is purely about the sport, or jiu-jitsu. There's no showmanship. There's none of that. It's about who wins, who loses.
Yeah.
Then you have mixed martial arts, which is the only sport that I believe that got it right to bring those two together. You need to have the personality. If you look at a guy like Conor McGregor, but Conor McGregor could have been, you know, when he came on the scene, how he was on the mic, how slick he was with it, you know, just with the press conferences, you know, everything was, people were entertained by him. But that wouldn't have meant anything if he walked into the octagon and just got knocked out.
Yep.
This is the one sport where if you want to have it all, you have to bring it all. There has to be a story, or there has to be a entertainment value, and there has to be I'm still getting in there and beating the shit out of you.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like you kind of bring both. Right, when you look at you before you fought Sean Strickland, you guys were at an event, and they're like, the UFC, they kind of do it all the time. That's one thing I would give to UFC. They kind of get their athletes in a limelight at the big UFC press conference or big UFC fights, and they show the camera on Sean Strickland. I think it was on you first. You're like, yeah, woo, fuck yeah, I'm here, baby. Then it goes to Sean Strickland, and Sean Strickland's like, hey, yeah. Then he turns around, shoots at you. You're like, oh, you miss. Come on, what you got? And then you guys end up fighting in the crowd. So right there's that entertainment value. You're building it up. And then eventually you guys fought and you beat him. You ended his short reign as a middleweight champion. Walk me through that fight, because Sean Strickland has a unique style that if he was to do that same style in kickboxing, I'm sure you heard of a gentleman named Taiwan Chai. He's a famous Muay Thai guy. He's known for just throwing body kicks and breaking people's arms when they try to, X-block and check it. What was your first impression of Sean Strickland? And, walk me through the first time you guys had your first encounter in the octagon.
Yeah, I mean, walking out there, I guess I bruised easily because at first that jab, we knew that jab was effective, but it was in such a way that I didn't care about it. It wasn't hurting me. I was like, cool, I'll take the jabs till I can, because he doesn't throw them with like crazy power. It's a hard jab, it's a proper jab, but it's not gonna hurt me, it's not gonna knock me out. It might cut you, but probably not. And after taking I'm just setting it up, and defensively he is tricky to deal with. He is, because he doesn't take chances. Sean Strickland does not go out there and fight he's complete. You can see it. Look at his record. He has 8 split decision victories. Well, split decisions, I think 2 losses and 6 victories. He does not mind to have that kind of fight. I do. I don't want that kind of fight. I want to fight. People pay a lot of money to be there. I go out there to look for that finish. And he makes it really hard because he prioritizes defense over offense, for sure.
Yep.
And he does a very good job at that. He hides it. And, the way he fights, it puts you in a position that you're struggling to reach it. And so the first time I fought him, the first round, I realized, cool, I should probably start doing something about that jab, because now my eyes are swelling. And, then the eyes were already being, busy swelling. And, it was almost a feeling out process for me that first round. I mean, it's my first time fighting for a UFC title. Then, of course, my first time fighting 5 rounds and very long. And once I found some timing and seeing the way he defends and blocks, and obviously mixing it up with the takedowns, that's where I started making ground. And I think that was one thing, is the constant pressure with a guy like Strickland, who people he seems like it can't get tired. He just doesn't get tired. But that's because he fights at his pace, walking forward, not being at risk at all, because he's not putting anything out there that puts him at risk. And now turning those tables, and by the end of round 3, I could see Sean Strickland was tired. He was getting tired. Obviously me too, but I mean, output-wise, I was just doing everything I could. And I think that was, when tables really started turning, where I put the pressure on him constantly. And now he's still not doing anything to put himself at risk, but now I'm creating the openings. I'm doing crazy things to get to his head. I'm doing things, whatever I have to get him. And like I said, he's a tricky customer when it comes to the defense to deal with, 100%.
Yeah, when you put in that aspect that he prioritizes defense over offense, it makes sense, because if you look at his arsenal tool bag, he's never done like, a 1-3-2, 3 to the body low kick, like pop, 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 pop. It's not a 5-punch combination, as I call it, a 5-piece chicken meal. And he prioritizes his defense and not walking forward with the push kicks and the leg kicks. And he checks everything. Like, I think when he fought Izzy, he checked every single leg kick because he's prioritizing the defense. And I think it makes it look like he's doing a lot because he walks forward. Izzy tends to walk backwards and go lateral. And I knew when you guys fought, because that's what I do now, is I break people's fights down. I said, Dricus Du Plessis, if he does not go back and he owns the middle of the octagon, he will do a better job, because Sean Strickland doesn't do well if he can't pressure somebody, right? He doesn't really do a lot of offense. He's not going to go out there and do 1-1-2, blast double leg, 1-1-2, flying knee, clinch, step off, and just mix it up, right? I think he even said after he fought Paulo Costa, he goes, hey, I'm not designed to go after somebody, right? It's like, I'm just going to do what I do best. So now that you know that he prioritizes defense, and you got to get almost Sean Strickland to expose himself, right? Like, that's how, when we do jiu-jitsu at IBJJF level, in the gi, it's like whoever exposes themselves first pretty much loses, right? Unless you're able to get ahead. You do a blast double leg, you're up by 2 points. Now the other person has to expose himself in order to come back and get you. So how do you expose somebody when they truly prioritize defense over offense?
Constant offense.
Ba, 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 ba. Open up, show me something, motherfucker.
There's gonna be opening, and you have to be ready to take it. There's gonna be one.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's tricky. It's a tricky thing, because when I watch, I always say the best thing he does is that he walks forward the whole entire time. That's it. That's the strongest thing that he does, and I love that about his style. But then when it comes to hey, where's that double leg? Where's that high crotch? Where's that? Show me something. Give me something else. It's almost like it just falls flat. So I'll be kind of curious to see how since you had 25 minutes with him, and now you're gonna get the opportunity to have another potentially 25 minutes. I'll be kind of curious to see what route you take to fight him this time.
Yeah, and interesting because I know they say he has a good top game in wrestling, but we don't see that because once again he prioritizes because defensively he's also great at getting back to his feet. I took him down 6 times and he was able to get back up and he does a very good job at that at getting up. So once again, it's defense, and I think like you said, with the constant pressure that he fights at, if you give in to that, it's going to be a long night for you.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Okay, let's talk about your training, okay? Now, when it comes to your training, are you focused more on just the mixed martial arts side of training, meaning you're just doing your rounds in kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, or are you doing any strength and conditioning, agility training to keep your athleticism up? I'm trying to do everything possible. There was phases in my career where I prioritized this, some phases this. And I believe now, so when I'm outside of camp, I would, in terms of strength training, I would prioritize strength training and make sure I get those in. Because strength training during a fight camp, like hard strength training, takes a lot out of you. Mm-hmm. It just gets you stiff. It's something that needs to be, and it's stuff that I, over the years, started realizing. So, and strength is not something you lose over a couple of weeks. But, that's where I put the focus on my conditioning in terms of, building the tank, making sure you peak at time, getting that in as the extra sessions, but always prioritizing my sport-specific training. Now, if I try to get into I do 3-4 sessions of training a day. Damn.
That gets into between doing my zone 2 work of light cardio, low intensity cardio, doing my high intensity work, whether it be explosive work or explosive strength endurance. Then my main session with our coach, which is a 2-hour session of this is MMA. So Mondays it might be we're doing setups and takedowns. Tuesday we might be doing just striking, specific stuff. Wednesdays, we might be doing, we're doing all the combos that we work with a takedown, for example, those kind of things. But that's coaches. So that is our main session. And after that, I have grappling, where I have grappling sessions at least 4 a week. And that's the thing. I try to get in everything as often as I possibly can. Because there's so many things to think about. And in between that, I have some mornings at least 3 or 4 times a week as well. Before training, I have an hour pad session, just pads, sharpening up everything. Because you only have that many hours in a day and you have to you have to take in consideration recovery as well.
Well, when you say you do like 3 to 4 sessions a day, now when you're saying 3 to 4 sessions a day, are there like, okay, this session is going to be, hey, I'm going to stretch. I'm just going to stretch this session.
No, I don't count that as a session. No.
So then what the fuck? So typically if you're working out 3 to 4 hours a day, right? When's your days off? Do you have any days off in camp?
I don't know. I'm a Christian, so the Sabbath is on Sundays. I don't train on the Sunday.
Gotcha. So you
Sundays,
work
Monday to Saturday.
Gotcha. So 6 days a week. So how many rounds would you say you put in a day?
How many rounds?
Well, you say you do 3 to 4 sessions a day, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to
So if you're doing
pads,
like, okay,
pads, typically
pads.
I would in a pad session, I would typically I'll probably do it in 10 3-minute rounds.
3 10-minute rounds. So that's 10.
Yeah, 10 3-minute rounds. I do an hour of grappling. And
fuck.
the main session of with coach is a 2-hour session of. That's a tough one. Well, like I said, it's either going to be maybe some days we're just wrestling. I think days we are working on the wall for straight. It's 5-minute rounds, sometimes 10-minute rounds, sometimes 3-minute rounds. We mix that up, just everybody with everybody. And once I get to camp, it's more specific to my camp for me. So my coach will be with me saying, okay, you go on the wall, everybody try to take Dricus down. Then Dricus, you're on this side, you try to take everybody down. Other days it would be, okay, it's just set up and takedown in a draw format, but as soon as the entry is there, it's a full-on fight.
Gotcha.
So that session is always hard. So I mean, that's 2 hours straight of that is the hardest one of the day.
Gotcha.
Thursdays would be more of is the day of, on Fridays are hard sparring. So Thursdays would typically be, there would be a mobility session in. I would do a grappling session with that, grappling wrestling, and try to do a pad work session. So that is what Thursdays look like. That is the rest day for in the week. Because Friday, Thursdays we would push at like a 60% because Fridays is a tough one. That's the hard sparring days. And so, yeah, I mean, and then of course, when that being said, when I'm overtrained, because we keep that measured, making sure HRV and everything is on par. Once that starts happening, I would much rather give up an extra, anaerobic session rather than giving up my MMA session or a grappling session, because I'm not a triathlete, I'm a MMA fighter.
Adversity is a good thing to have in your life because it kind of lets you know, are you mentally tough enough to overcome a challenge? In my entire career in mixed martial arts, I've competed for 18 years. You can make it if you truly want to. Yes, you might not have time to go out to hang out with your buddies on Saturday. You might not have time to sit down on Sunday to watch football. You might not have that time. It motivates me. No, I'm going to be the best. Nobody's going to outwork me. Mental, physical preparation. Like, my mental preparation is perfect. My physical preparation is perfect. I do all my rounds. We all have a choice that if you want to change your living situation and look for happiness, you can find it. I am Demetrious Johnson, and I am First Form.
Gotcha. Now, when I sit here, obviously I'm retired now. So when I sit here and I listen to you talk about like, I'm doing 3 to 4 sessions a day, I'm like, God damn. I was like, that's a lot of workload. And then you're doing it 6 days a week, through Monday through Saturday, and you take Sunday off. I try to look back at when I was competing, and I'm like, God damn, was I working that hard? I was like, I don't know if I was working that hard. I was like, but it's just a whole lot. And then what do you do for recovery? Or is there no recovery? Is it just a day off? Like, hey, I'm not doing nothing, or I'm gonna do light stuff. Are you doing
No, I'm using my ice baths. So 100% love it. I'm using the saunas. I'm using hyperbaric chambers. Making sure I get to my physio, making sure I get my PT in, and recovery is important. Making sure my nutrition is on par. That's all the things. And some days, like some weeks, you can push full speed for the whole week, and then the next week, when you get to Wednesday, like maybe I should, just sit today out. Just know your body and listen to it, because sometimes going harder is just doing more damage.
Yep, I agree. When you talk about nutrition, what type of meat they get out there in South Africa? Like, what's a delicacy
the best
that
in the
you
world by far.
So what is it like? Are you having lion? Are you having tiger? Do you having panther? Like, what are you having? Why are you laughing? I'm asking a question.
Well, I don't think people eat lion. I guess somebody has eaten lion. I've eat crocodile.
Ooh, how's that?
It's amazing. Love it. Yeah, but steaks, we have amazing meat. When I get in fight camp, I eat red meat outside of fight camp 3 times a day, like steaks and stuff, because it's farm country. We have a lot of that. But meat in South Africa, if you ever have the opportunity, it's probably the best in the world. I've traveled to a lot of places. South Africa's meat is one of the greatest in the world. Man, I mean, we have fish, we have everything here. Like in terms of natural resources and food, we have everything, and it's pretty organic if you compare it to a lot of the stuff from all over the world.
Well, I was gonna say, you guys, like you said, you have all that farmland, so all your steak, the beef, the chicken, it's probably no antibiotics, no processed shit. It's like this cow over here.
You have that.
Really?
But no, we have that because there's your commercial farmers, but it's much more accessible and cheaper to be able to buy the no biotics, no hormones, all those kind of things. I've been to America and I've seen the chicken breast the size of a chicken. I can't believe it. And the organic one is like 4 times the price and like 4 times smaller right next to it. And I'm like, I have to take the organic one because this thing is on juice. I'll pop just for eating this chicken breast probably.
You know what's funny? I traveled to St. Martin, and the gentleman's from Jamaica, and he was like, I come over here to America and I buy a fucking fruit, and I sat that orange on the countertop, and the orange lasted for like 5 weeks. He goes, that is bullshit. He goes, there's no way that orange should last for 5 weeks. And he was like, I have an orange tree and an apple tree, and he lives on a farm in Jamaica, but he comes to the States to make money because he says the money over here is better. Then I go back home to Jamaica and build my wealth or my empire.
Life.
And he was like, dude, he's like, dude, like my trees and all my fruits are all organic and it's fucking cheap. He goes, like milk and all that stuff. It's like, it's cheap and it's organic. He goes, the shit you guys doing over here in America is bullshit. That's what you guys are doing. So it's funny to hear you come from South Africa and you come here. It's like, why is that chicken breast bigger than the fucking chicken itself?
Yeah,
look
it's
at the
not
steroids
normal.
on.
It's not normal.
So you feel the same way when you come over here and see our American food. You're like, what are you guys doing over here? What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, when you go there and have some Wendy's, we don't have that. It's amazing. We have McDonald's, we have Burger King. Wendy's, like if you're going up there and you're enjoying yourself like that, that's amazing. But when it comes to quality of food, and obviously there are places that have all of this, but in general, like your average restaurant you go to in terms of food and your average supermarket that you go to, the quality of food in South Africa is world class. I think it's probably one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I want to go. You're in Cape Town, right?
I'm not in Cape Town. No, I'm in Pretoria.
Okay.
Cape Town is coastal. I'm inland, but Cape Town is, I think it was the number 2 tourist destination in the world last year, and I think it was the number 1 cuisine destination on Earth last year as well. Cape Town is an incredible place, the most beautiful place.
Yeah, my wife wants to go. How often do you see a lion?
Whenever I want to.
Are they chilling in your backyard, or you just,
No. There's a lot of lion parks like where I am, but I mean, there's probably 1,000 parks you can just go to within a 20-minute drive, just to, for tourists and but I mean, they're not in the streets. No.
Okay.
Well, there has been, but you don't want that.
Yeah. Well, I told my kids, they're like, oh, Dad, who are you interviewing today? I was, oh, his name is Dricus Du Plessis. And he goes, huh, where's he from? I'm like, South Africa. And he goes, oh, does he see lions all the time? I'm like, son, I'm not sure how it is. Like, like in Washington State, we're known for not grizzly bears, but black bears, deer, elk, bobcats, mountain lions. So if you're in the mountains or shit, sometimes we have them walk across the street depending on where we're at. And I live in the farmlands area. You'll see them walking around, right? Yeah. When I went to Australia, they're like, you see them fucking kangaroos? They're rodents. Hit them. Like, they're not majestic.
Yeah, they hate him. I was there when I was there with the Easy fight. I was like, okay, they hate him.
Yeah, they hate him, right? So I don't know. You're the first South African person I've ever talked to, right? So I'm like, okay, so do you guys look at, we look at your, the animals over there as majestic, like a lion's majestic. Yeah. Do you guys do it the same way? Yeah. Or are you guys like, it's just another fucking animal, another cat. If you see it, run it over and just drag it on the side of the road.
Not at all. Like the lions are, like where we live there, you wouldn't find a lion. There's still some wild leopards, which is terrifying, especially like in farm, when we were closer to farm areas, mountain areas. There's some wild leopards left, but they would probably get shot and killed because they eat the cattle. They'll eat the sheep. The farmers would kill them. But gotcha. So we have the Kruger National Park, and we have a lot of national parks that are protecting these animals where they are living as 100% wild in their environment. They hunt for themselves. There's no feeding them, and the lions live there. Like the whole Big Five is there in the Kruger National Park. And there's many parks around South Africa that has the whole Big Five where they live in conservation, but it's massive. Like, you can't drive through it even in a day. It's like that's where they live in their natural habitat. And people can go and watch it. You can drive there with your car and look at it, but like you can't hunt there or anything like that.
Gotcha. But you said the leopards that come and destroy the cattle. Is there a group of hunters that get a tag to hunt them for free, essentially? Like here, over here in America,
on my farm, I can kill it.
So if it's on your farm, you can kill it.
Yeah, it's on my farm. I'll definitely kill it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, sometimes I
know some places have better, but we don't have it. It's this, the laws aren't that strict.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I know sometimes, like my father-in-law, he's a master hunter, and he'll get a call from somewhere over on the east side of the mountain, like, hey, I got these fucking coyotes that are destroying my crop. Come over here and kill them. And then he'll like, I'm on my way. He'll drive over there and he'll just, it's like open season. He'll just go out there and just take them all out. Same thing in Texas. Like they go kill the boars. It's fine because they're destroying the vegetation, the crops, and messing with the farmland. So I don't know if it was the same thing that was in South Africa.
It's the same with us. Like, you don't need a license. If they're on my farm, I can go nuts.
Have you ate them before? Are they good eating?
What? A leopard?
The leopard, yeah.
No. I don't eat any.
You said no.
I don't eat cats. No, I don't eat cats. Nobody eats that, I think.
Oh, fuck. Hey, I had to ask. I just fucking asked her a question.
No, it's a valid question. Like, I wanted to say I don't eat predators, but I do eat crocodiles. So I guess I do eat predators.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, you just proved yourself wrong. Okay, now, what's your in-game goal in mixed martial arts, right? You reach the pinnacle of it. And I don't know how much weight you cut to middleweight, but you seem like a good size middleweight. Like, do you have any interest in the future, like going up to light heavyweight? Or you're like, you know what, I'm going to try to defend the belt as many times as I can, and then I'm going to ride off to the sunset? Or are you just looking for the biggest fights and just trying to enjoy yourself?
Yeah, well, where I'm at right now, I'm chasing the legacy of the middleweight division 100%. It's my first priority. Would I like to go up and fight for another belt? Absolutely, but definitely not now. I have work to do at middleweight. There's too many big fights right now that I have to take care of. And that's where my attention lies. But I most certainly, I cut a lot of weight to get to middleweight for sure. But, in the future, yes. But for me right now, the middleweight is where my attention's at, and leaving my legacy in the middleweight division. There's too many big fights, and I want the big fights. I want the hardest possible fights so that my legacy can never be doubted. That's what I'm after. And when the day comes that I don't want to do this anymore, I'll be done.
You gonna go play rugby?
No, I want to become a professional race car driver.
Really?
Yeah.
Where the fuck that come from? This whole conversation, you not once ever mentioned about fucking driving cars, and all of a sudden you're like,
I love racing cars. Like I had my first race last year. I'm racing again now. I have a race car.
Whoa, back it up.
Yeah.
You're racing?
Yeah, I love it.
Tell me about this race. Are you doing F1? Are you doing, Honda Civic, Rice Rockets? What you doing?
It's like the oval. It's big in America too. The dirt oval tracks, like dirt oval. You've never seen people go in a circle on a dirt track?
No.
Jeez. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so it's called. So are you drifting?
You are drifting essentially, but it's not about drifting. It's about winning the race. So you can do this on tour as well. They have the sprint cars that do it, like massive V8 cars that do it. It's pretty incredible. It's a very big sport in America. It's like the Americans are at it.
It's called oval.
Oval racing. Like
oval racing.
You race in an oval track. You'll see it.
Interesting. Oval. What the fuck? Oval racing. Oval racing.
Say sprint cars. You'll see it's pretty impressive.
But it's on a dirt though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. See, when you say oval racing, we call that Daytona NASCAR oval racing. It's just you go in a big circle.
No,
but
it's not like NASCAR.
Okay. Well, I'm
it's a much smaller track, but it's a much smaller track, and it's like NASCAR's is like, it's not that. It's like if you'll see it, you'll get it. Maybe it's because America. I keep forgetting that each state is like a different country in America.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's probably not that state.
Yeah, probably. So what got you into racing? Like what? I feel that's totally fucking like.
I grew up on bikes. I grew up always, I love speed. I grew up on bikes and race cars. Like I have a simulator racing simulator game, PlayStation. I love it. Just be like, it's the coolest thing ever when I got it. And I just have a passion for cars. I love it. I like fast cars. I've always said, like, when I'm done, because racing cars, even as a professional, you can be a lot older. F1, I love watching F1, but I wouldn't for me, it's the least entertaining thing I think to drive. I like more of a rally style, like professional, the world rally cross, which like Travis Pastrana, the X Games, that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. I will pursue that when I'm done with fighting.
What type of car do you drive right now? Like, since you race, like my favorite rally car when I was into racing, like I used to do some street racing when I was a kid. My dream car was a WRX STI around 2005 to 2008. It had the box engine and it made a sound with the turbo. It would go.
That's exactly.
And
it had a big pipe at the back, like the massive pipe at the back.
Yes. What car are you working
right now? I'm driving a Mustang.
Okay.
With a Roush kit. It has a blower on it.
Damn.
It's a sweet car. Like in America, it's such a in South Africa, Mustang is not a common car.
Yeah.
But now it's they make they're coming in commercially as well. So, but yeah, mine sounds, it's the loudest sounding car I've ever heard in my whole life. And my neighbors hate me for it, and I don't care.
Well, when you said you have a Mustang with a Roush kit on it, like my wife, she drives the F-150 with a Roush kit on it, and it's fucking. Each time she leaves the house, and when it goes, and I'm like,
it's insane.
Mom's going to the gym. It's 4 a.m. and she takes off. I stop. I won't hear her until she leaves the neighborhood. So when you have a Roush kit on a Mustang, I mean, what's that thing pushing?
It does at least 700.
Jesus.
At least 700. Yeah, it's an insane car. I love it.
Rear-wheel drive, I'm assuming?
Rear-wheel drive. That's a lot of power for rear-wheel.
Yeah,
just
you're
sliding
fucking
all over the show.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
But when it's raining, you don't take that bad boy out. You don't drive in the rain. No ways.
The torque is too much. The torque is going to be way too much. You'll just fucking spin out all fucking day.
Absolutely.
Well, that's dope. Well, if you have any videos of you racing, I'll love to see them, because I did not. I've never expected that. That's one thing I love about doing this show is because all we get to see is you show up, fight, do your thing, and disappear. But now knowing the fact, like now I'm excited to see like when you do retire, does Dricus Du Plessis go into fucking oval racing, and now he knows.
Like I mean, oval racing is like a very entry level of racing. But if you see Cowboy Cerrone, I mean, he's riding, he's doing like the side by sides, like alongside Travis Pastrana. He's driving with the big boys now, and he's a great driver. Like I followed him, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, I just want to respect that. You know, you going into oval racing or just racing in general, right? And you've done some racing before, so it would kind of, you're like, I've already dominated mixed martial arts, and now I'm here to take over racing. I have a championship mindset. Just watch and see what I do. Watch me. Yeah,
change the game. Start fighting people next to the track. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't
know. Okay, Dricus. Before we let you go, Michael, do you got anything from our man Dricus Du Plessis?
Thanks for joining us on this show.
Oh, man. On your pleasure.
So, yeah, the one thing I wanted to ask about, there was a little bit of controversy in the lead up to getting this Strickland fight because of Khamzat CHIMAEV. I know you were vocal in saying that he was pretty deserving of a title shot, but UFC decided to go the Strickland route. What do you think of that whole situation? What do you think as a future fight of Khamzat? Because from the outside looking in, that dude, when he does show up, is a fucking beast, but it's just about getting him in the octagon. So what's your thoughts on the whole Khamzat situation?
Yeah, I think Khamzat is an incredible fighter, but you know, you're fighting in the top 5 of the UFC. Everybody's incredible fighters. And, you know, he has this one thing that works for him, and it's been good. But, you know, Khamzat is an absolute animal, absolutely. But, I mean, you look at the Gilbert Burns fight, which you could have scored either way. You look at the Kamaru Usman fight, and you go, yeah, he did beat Robert Whittaker, but obviously his teeth broke back. It's unfortunate. He is really good. So, you know, deserving of a title shot 100% after that performance. You know, if you look at the Strickland's last performance versus Paulo Costa, and then you look at Khamzat's last performance versus Robert Whittaker, that's it. No brainer that Khamzat gets the title fight. And I had my own selfish reasons. I was more excited to fight a Khamzat. But I don't mind the Strickland fight either. You know, let's put that to bed. Khamzat's fight is going to be there right after this. And that was just before, as soon as they said it's going to be the Strickland fight, I immediately forgot about Khamzat. And I decided that, well, now my focus is on Strickland. We figure this out, win this fight, and then we can start worrying about what's next. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to understand, and this is me, it's just an idea that I'm running by. Is John Jones is the only current American UFC champion, right?
Oh, shit. Hang on. Let me think. Hang on. You're at middleweight, South African. Light heavyweight is, who is that? That's Alex Pereira. Heavyweight champion is John Jones. Okay. And then flyweight is, Tom Aspinall. Yep. And then Pantoja, Brazilian.
Merab Majidi, Georgian. He's Georgian.
Yep.
So now you have to ask your question. UFC is a massive American company. Is that obviously?
Shit. Damn, you actually right, because when you think about it, everybody who comes out, there's only one American flag, and that's John Jones. Truthfully, like when you look at 145, it's Ilya Topuria. He's Spanish. Then 155 is Islam. 170. Who's 170 champ? That's Bilal Muhammad. Yeah,
Bilal.
You're kind of right. Yeah, I think it's
I can't believe you just said, who is the 170 champ? Oh, that's the best here.
Oh, fuck. I love Bilal Muhammad. I love him. Here's the thing. I literally just had a conversation with somebody this morning. And if you're not in the limelight, meaning like if people aren't seeing you fight often, and you know, obviously injuries happen, right? But like one time in 1 year when I was a champion, I fought fucking 3 times and I had surgery, right? So I was on Fox. It was like I was in the media just fighting all the time.
Yeah, but I used to watch you fight and think it's not fair, but because like you made it look like a video game when you fight. It didn't seem like you got tired ever. And it didn't seem like you didn't struggle ever. It was just always, you made it look easy. You made it look like like, yeah, I was like, I'm not comparing myself to that. It's not going to happen. Like,
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But back to the point, it's like I was always fighting. Where now you haven't seen Kamaru Usman fight in. I can't remember his last. He fought Khamzat, right? It's like the more you are pretty active, Izzy's pretty active, Rob Whittaker's pretty active. So you get familiar with these faces who are always active and fighting. Now I feel when you're a champion, you're trying to make as much money as possible, trying to land the right fight, get the right pay-per-view deal, break for the right card. It's like you kind of forget about who's there fighting. It's just the nature of the beast. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was
no, it's 100% for me. I'm 100% in that position. Like I like to fight. So
yeah,
you know, now with the Sean Strickland one, that would be my third fight in a year's time.
Yep.
So
yeah, you fought Sean.
January,
you beat him.
It would be 13 months. It would be 13 months, 3 fights. As a champion, that's pretty active, and
that is very active. Very active.
If my body allows it, you know, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight. If I don't have anything big, I'm fighting, and because I like to fight.
I love that. Well, Dricus Du Plessis, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's late over there in Africa. This is your opportunity to let the fans know how they can support you, how they can look out for some of them over racing YouTube videos, K1 videos. This is your opportunity to let the fans know how they can support you, man.
Oh, well, thank you guys for having me. It's absolutely incredible. It's an honor to be on here with you. I think you're an absolute legend. I've looked up to you for a long time. It's incredible. To all the fans showing love, I appreciate it. Obviously, social media, that's where it's at. You know, YouTube videos. And yeah, check out the Oval Racing. He'll love it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you didn't tell everybody where they can follow you. You said check out the social media. Is it Dricus
social
Is it
media.
DDP? Is it Dricus Du Plessis? What is it?
Well, once you say Dricus Du Plessis, you're going to find it. Du Plessis. It's French.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. What is your native language? Like, I was bringing out one of you. Afrikaans. Okay.
So it's the youngest language in the world. So it's derivative from Dutch.
Okay.
Like more from like the Netherlands. Like, but my forefathers came in 1600s to South Africa from France. The Christians that fled France came to South Africa.
Gotcha. Because I was bringing out one of your videos, and one of the things I've been doing lately is I like to listen to what the cornermen are saying between the rounds. It's just to hear what they're talking to you about. And they were talking to you, and it was like a language I never heard before. And then Dominic Cruz goes, yeah, that's not English. And I'm like, what language is that? So I wanted to ask you. So it's called
Afrikaans.
Afrikaans. And then what else language do you speak?
Afrikaans, I can speak a little bit of Zulu. I can speak English. That's it. We have 12 official languages. I think 11 or 12 official languages in South Africa. So yeah, I'm not going to know all of them.
And what about when did you learn English? Was it during school or?
Yeah. I had English from school. Since primary school, we had English.
Gotcha. And then when you were at home, they spoke Afrikaans.
Yeah, we speak Afrikaans. Like in the gym now, we speak English because we have so many. We have many different people from the Congo. We have people from all over the world. From France, we have people from Germany. We have people from different ethnicities within South Africa. So different home languages, and so we speak English. Everybody understands English. At home, I speak Afrikaans.
Gotcha. And your fiance, she speaks the language as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. She also grew up in Afrikaans family.
Okay. Awesome. That's what's up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's my man, Dricus Du Plessis. If you guys enjoyed this episode on the MightyCast, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, go give my man a follow. Follow his YouTube, his social media, all the stuff he has going on, and make sure you support him as he takes on Sean Strickland at UFC 312. I am your host, Demetrious Johnson. That is our guest, Dricus Du Plessis, and my right-hand man, Michael Runsover. We will see you guys at the next episode of the MightyCast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We just got done talking to Dricus Du Plessis, and this is the part of the episode where we recap everything we just went through with our guests. Now, first off, I wanted to get right off the bat with this. I told him I thought Izzy was going to whoop his ass. And then he ended up sleeping Izzy in an amazing first title defense. The one thing I do love about Dricus Du Plessis is how he admits that he has a clumsy style for mixed martial arts, right? Like, I have to go back and watch his fighting style in K1, because if you guys ever watch, OG K1, if you haven't, go watch it. It's probably the best stand-up out there you can watch when it comes to kickboxing and Muay Thai. One Championship does that same type of style, like where they basically come toe-to-toe inside the void, and it's a 5-punch combination with the kick, and you don't run, you stay right there, and you eat my 5-punch combination with a kick, and the first person who falls loses. And you could see that style where in mixed martial arts, it's not like that. Right? Like, so those are some of the things that I would tell Matt. I was like, Matt, I want a 5-piece chicken meal when I was fighting, this athlete. And Matt goes, that's not realistic. He's going to run once you get to him. Right? So when you see people hitting pads and are standing there going 1, 2, 3, and the pad holder is not moving, that's unrealistic pad holding. Because once I go 1, 2, you're going to be fucking gone. You're going to leave, or you're going to angle or go lateral. And to hear him talk about that, now when you watch his style, that's kind of why he does that preempting run when he fights people. He'll get the high shield, get close, and then boom, go from southpaw to orthodox and do so many different combinations along with the kick. Now, what he says is true. In a ring, there's 4 corners. So it's designed more for a person to track somebody down in a corner. In an octagon, there's 8 corners. You can't really track somebody down in an octagon. That's why when you see a guy like Ilia Topuria, he moves, he gets his X and Y head movement going on, and then he'll try to counter off your punch. But then once he hurt Max Holloway, what did he do? He ran directly to Max and let go a 4 or 5-piece combination. When he did that, Max ran away. Then he had to run back to that void and get that combination and land in the left hook. So I can understand where Dricus is coming from when he talks about him coming from a K1 background into mixed martial arts. It's almost like he's still trying to figure it out, and he's getting better each time he steps in the octagon to defend his belt. Now, when he fights Sean Strickland, he brought up a great point. Sean Strickland does prioritize defense over offense, and when he put it in those terms, it made more sense to me, where it's like, he's right. He's coming forward and he's doing this. He's being very safe. He doesn't take any chances. Sean Strickland never exposes himself. If somebody never exposes himself, then it's going to be very hard to hit them, because they're not putting themselves in a position to get capitalized on. So, the conversation with Dricus Du Plessis was amazing. I did not know it was going to be that fucking good.
Yeah, the first time I saw DDP was UFC 290. I was with Kelvin Gastelum, cage side, and we both thought it was DDP versus Robert Whittaker. We thought Whittaker was going to smoke him. Like, I'm just like you, what you were saying with Israel Adesanya. Like, and especially KG fought Whittaker, and it was one of, if not the hardest fight he's ever had in the octagon. And we just saw Dricus just run through Whittaker, just ran through him. It was, and we talked to Whittaker. He told us how hard it was and how awkward it was and how much his punches hurt and how hard he hit. That was the first time where I'm like, okay, this guy is a legitimate contender. No one does that to Whittaker. Even Khamzat, obviously defeated Whittaker quickly, but it wasn't a knockout or something. He took him down, submit him. That was impressive for me, and since then, all he's done is just win. And I will say, though, what's interesting about the Strickland fight, it was a pretty difficult fight for him compared to, Israel Adesanya, he finished him. Robert Whittaker, he finished him. Mm-hmm. He wasn't able to do that with Sean Strickland, so I do see the need for the rematch, but as a fan, I would have preferred to see Khamzat. It is what it is, but I think it will make the Khamzat fight bigger now. If he could pull off the win against Strickland, then he goes against Khamzat, having defended the belt a couple times now. So, we'll see what happens, but I know you kind of agree. I would have preferred to see Khamzat. I will put that out there.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think you just hit on it. Like, he finishes Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker exposes himself. Robert Whittaker actually goes out there and fights. Adesanya, Izzy takes chances. The fight was a banger. They're both swinging back and forth. when you look at the Sean Strickland once again prioritizes defense, so he never gets the opportunity to expose himself. I mean, you look at it. When was the last time? You can look it up real quick while I'm talking to you. When was the last time Sean Strickland finished somebody in mixed martial arts? Like, I'll probably say maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
It wasn't that it wasn't that long ago, but he did TKO Abus Magomedov July 1st, 2023. But I will say, outside of that one, he did not have one since 2020. So he has had one since 2020.
And I remember watching that fight. The guy kind of fucking gave up. He didn't want it anymore. He was like, I'm fucking done. It wasn't like a pop, 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 boom, and it boom, like a hard right hand that dropped him, or a submission, like forcing somebody to quit. It was almost like Sean Strickland overwhelmed him and the guy wanted to get out of there. So it's still a finish, but it's not like a finish where I blast Adriano or I throw Ray Borg up, or when Dricus Du Plessis chokes out Izzy, or Khamzat.
Or when DDP just runs through Robert Whitaker. It was nothing like that. It
was almost like he forced him to quit, that's also a finish, but it's not a recurring thing from Sean Strickland. And I know a lot of people who are going to listen to this are probably going to say, oh, he's hating on Sean Strickland. I think Sean Strickland, what he does is great. He has a certain type of style that he comes forward with his hands down, and he prioritizes defense over offense. And even, I'm just speaking what Sean Strickland said after he fought Costa. Hey guys, I'm not designed to go out there and force somebody to fight me. This is the style I do, and it is what it is. And I agree with you. I think Khamzat should get the opportunity to fight for the world championship over Sean Strickland. But then when DDP brought up that interesting thing of, like, when you look at all the champions in the UFC, there's only one American champion, right? And Bilal Muhammad. Right,
I will say though, when I researched it after we finished the interview, he is right that Bilal Muhammad is the country he chooses to represent him is Palestine. That's the flag that he has, and also if you even go to his like UFC or ESPN profile, it will show the flag. So I get the point. It is pretty crazy as long as you don't count, of course, Juliana Pena. She's American as well, of course, but. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of wild right now. Who actually come out with the USA flag would only be John Jones and the male fighters.
Yeah, it's crazy when he mentioned that. And I was like, holy shit. Because there was at one point in time when it was like Dominic Cruz 135, me 125. You had Jose Aldo 145. Then it went to Max Holloway. He is Hawaiian, so you have the Hawaiian flag. But at one point in time, I felt like the 145-pound champ was an American. I can't remember who it was. Connor was 140. He was Ireland, but then there was also 155 was Eddie Alvarez at one point. It was also Rafael dos Anjos, Brazilian. Then you had 170. That's Michael Biggs. No, Bigsby was middleweight. Can't remember who was. I felt there was more American champions than there was any other country champions, right? So, but now we're at this time where there's only one American champion, and that's John Jones, and Tom Aspinall. So even if we were to even, like, let's say John Jones decides to retire, right? All the champions are not from this country. Think about that. That's fucking crazy. So interesting observation made from DDP.
Well, it's hard for me to buy that because this fight is in Sydney, Australia. Their last fight was in Canada, I believe Vancouver, which that's something that Strickland doesn't like. Is like, why am I not being offered these? He's the guy who's all Mr. USA and all that stuff. So it's odd for me. And I wish we asked DDP about it, because unless they change the time, they're once again doing the funky UFC pay-per-view in Australia, but American time zone, which I think doesn't make any sense. So I would have loved to ask his opinion on that, because it kind of sucks for the fighters.
Well, I think for him, since he's in Africa, I don't know what the time zone is from Africa to Australia, but it's something like Islam talked about it on the MightyCast. If you guys haven't watched that, go back and watch that. It was absolutely amazing to talk to him. But it's something that I've dealt with. I fought in Australia. I fought in Singapore. I fought in Japan. I fought in Manila on different time zone, on American time zone, while I try to acclimate to their time zone. And as a professional athlete, it's just something you have to fucking do. There's no way around it. At the end of the day, ESPN holds all the cards. You want to cater to the American audience because the American audience are paying the most money through the pay-per-views. You just got to prepare for it. There's nothing you could do about it. And you know,
there's a 9 hour difference, so it's not helping Dricus at all.
No,
so
it's not.
So I was the same with you. I'm like, I don't know. I'm very bad at stuff like that of like what time zone is what country, but no, South Africa is not helping him one bit. But as we look, UFC 312 this weekend, I gotta be that guy. With UFC 311, I said finally I wouldn't complain. This card, woo, this card is bad. I mean, I don't know. And it's weird. They did the same thing with DDP Strickland last time too. Super, super weak card, which it's DJ, you experienced this. When you're that top guy, you're getting those pay-per-view points.
How did it get done?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I should say if you were getting them, you want to get like a little bit of help. I mean, you believe in yourself, right? And 100%. I'm sure DDP and Strickland are going to sell the shit out of the fight. But and I will say, Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez is the best women's fight you can make. So I'm not hating on that. It's the rest of the card. I love that Zhang Weili Suarez fight. I've been wanting to see that fight for years. So that is not what I'm bad talking, but unless they change it, the third card they're listing right now is Justin Tafa versus Taliesin Teixeira. Like, this is crazy.
I mean, it's hard, man. Like, I think one day we'll have a matchmaker on here just to talk to them. Like, hey, when you're laying out a card, what the fuck are you doing sometimes? Like, you come out with a banger, and it's like a rap artist, right? Travis Scott comes out. I mean, all his albums have actually been fucking bangers, so I can't use him as a reference. But you have, a banger after banger after banger. The next thing you know, you're like, what the fuck just happened? But, they got so many cards. They got the UFC Fight Night. They have the UFC pay-per-view. They have the UFC, Apex. They have so many cards and so many people on the roster that they're obligated to get these fights to these athletes. So, not every card is going to be a banger. But I think that, they're hoping that the main event and the co-main event is going to be the selling point of the event. And I think there's a flyweight fight on there. I think, is it Manel Kopp fighting somebody on that one?
No, that's a fight night. It's not.
That's a fight night.
On this
Okay.
Card. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
But either way, no matter the card quality, we're gonna cover it the same. We're still gonna have the final predictions. We're still gonna have the instant reaction. But you would love, a little bit more to go along with this. But with that being said, I'm excited for this DDP Strickland fight week. I loved what DDP said about the pro wrestling MMA connection. Yep. He gets it so much. Like, he knows that there needs to be that aspect, because if there isn't that aspect, it's just a sport. It's pretty much just like jiu-jitsu or whatever he says. Like, really the aspect that is going to make this what people really want to see is going to be Strickland and him getting into it, the press conference. Yep. So I'm excited for that stuff, maybe even more than the actual fight. So that stuff I'm excited for, but would have loved a deeper card. But just to go quickly, what are your thoughts on that co-main event, seeing Zhang Weili, Tatiana Suarez? We'll obviously get more of it in the final predictions, but I think that's like a banger. You couldn't get a better women's fight right now.
I agree. I think Tatiana Suarez, I think she's been out of the game for a little bit just because of injuries. Now she's back. She's finally getting an opportunity to fight for a world championship. And I think for her, I like the wrestling pedigree that she brings to this fight. I feel like she's a bigger woman for that division, meaning like taller, longer, looks a little more physically stronger. And Weili, I mean, she's been on the top of the game for the longest time. I mean, she did have a slip up when she fought Rose Namajunas with that high kick, but ever since then, she's had some great fights with Joanna Jacek. So that'd be an interesting fight. But I want to get back to DDP. I think the cool thing another thing that we've been finding out, that I've been finding out, well, the listeners and me and you have been finding out, is that in different countries, it's not like it is in America, which I would assume it wasn't. But to hear it from the horse's mouth, like, he would go to school, and if you want to do any extra activities like football, basketball, wrestling, track, judo, you have to do it after school. It's not provided in the school curriculum. Where in America, when my kids get into middle school, they get to sign up for football, basketball, wrestling. Like, the school provides that activity for you and you could do other stuff outside of school. But for him to not step foot in mixed martial arts until he was 18 years old, it's like you build this foundation and then you decide you want to go into mixed martial arts. Instead, you see kids nowadays, they're doing mixed martial arts at a very young age. And I always build your foundation, right? Like Tyron has 2 years of jiu-jitsu. Now he's going into wrestling. No, excuse me. Now he's going into football. Because I think he likes the lifestyle of a football player, like the chains, the grills. Like he's like, man, when I look at jiu-jitsu players, man, it doesn't look like they're having a time in their life, right? But it brings it back to what, DDP said. It's a sport. Somebody loses, somebody wins. That's it. It's truly a sport. To where you see now in jiu-jitsu, in no-gi, you see Craig Jones, you see Nicky Rod, you see these big popularizing people like
polarizing.
Polarizing. Thank you. Goddamn, polarizing people who are trying to change the game. The Rotolo brothers are very flashy, big hair, chaotic style. Mikey, I feel like they're bringing the stories into jiu-jitsu where, when you look at gi jiu-jitsu, it's more of a sport. It's like you win, you lose, go home. But yeah, man, what an amazing talk. I can't wait to see how this fight goes down between him, DDP versus Sean Strickland at UFC 312. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode.
Also, one other thing, I didn't have if I had a second question to ask him, I definitely would have asked him, how big is MMA Guru in person? Because he's one of the only living. Yeah. DDP's one of the only living, breathing human beings that has seen MMA Guru in the flesh. He's like Bigfoot. You don't.
Yeah, you don't see him.
He's one of the only guys to see him outside of his little studio. So I would have loved to. But he looked fucking huge next to. I wonder what DDP's listed as, but.
He's got to at least be 6'1". He's got to be at least 6'1".
Yeah, I mean, he's not a small guy at all.
No.
He's listed at 6 feet.
Yeah, because when we met Izzy, and I was like, holy fuck, you are massive. And he shook my hand. I was like, look at what fucking big-ass fucking grizzly paw hand you have there, Izzy. And I'm like, okay. And then DDP wasn't that much shorter than Izzy. So, and then Guru was, he wasn't in his wheelchair. So that was a shock. And he was like, pretty comparable to DDP. So maybe next time we get him on after his fight with Sean Strickland, we can ask him about his encounter with the Bigfoot MMA Guru. So
yeah, and as always, we're gonna have the final predictions. We're gonna have the instant reaction on Saturday, and yes, so check out the YouTube. We're gonna have all the goodies.
That's right, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode of the Mighty Recap, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, hit the bell to go live. I am your host, Demetrious Johnson. That's my right-hand man, Michael Wansover, and we will see you guys at the next episode of the Mighty Cast.